Welcome to the Rocket Launcher Podcast. This is episode 51. I am your host, Supreme King, and joined as always with my co-host, and his name is...
It's your guy Omazis.
How you doing today, sir? How's everything for you?
Pretty good. The weather isn't too hot. Like this has been fine. I'm liking it.
The weather is nice. Yeah, it's really good. I've been enjoying the weather. There was that one day, I don't know if it was last week, but it jumped to 90 degrees. It was like
Hated it.
It was kind of rough. I did power through it though, but it was a little rough. But yeah, this week very good weather. I expect today to be really good and tomorrow. Shout out to the weather. I'm really enjoying the summertime this year. I definitely am. Which brings us into our very first topic, the Summer Games Fest. By the time this goes out, I will mention, by the time this goes out, a lot more of these game shows would have already happened. And I think by the time somebody's really listening to this, the Xbox show would have already happened, which is, I think, the next big show. We will talk about that one next week because technically this comes out the morning before it. So, I just want to briefly...
time to marinate, right? We don't want to just rush it. We want to marinate over the games.
I do want to mention, like, there's so many game shows that I really feel like they should have spaced these out without E3, like the actual place that they're going into in person. They had an opportunity to space this out just a little bit. I really appreciated it. Because it was kind of hard to really keep up with them, so I powered through them. I actually had to stop gaming in order to power through all these shows, and it's like I don't want to stop gaming, but I did. Right. I didn't actually game this week, mainly for watching the shows. I would have liked to have a couple of these go out a little bit, but with the Summer Game Fest show, one of the first ones that we were going to talk about, I do appreciate that they at least announced that they were going to have another showcase. And they did space this out a little bit. I guess it's going to be on June 29th. The Annapurna Interactive Showcase.
Oh, the Annapurna. Yep.
I think I said that right. Yeah, and they showed a few things, and they showed, I don't know if you caught it, but there was like, here's a quick preview of some new games that we're going to have coming out, and see if you can spot like anything or anything that you might, recognize. And one of the first things that they showed was actually Stray. And so we don't know if it's Stray 2 or maybe DLC, but they did show Stray. So there's going to be more content for Stray, for cat lovers, for anybody who's interested in that. There's been a lot of cat games that just started to come out. It's gotten to the point where we've seen, I forgot the name of it, but there's like some sort of Souls-like game where they literally just put a cat head on the human's body and you just play the Souls game. It's gotten to that point. It's really silly. I remember that. Yep. It's kind of silly, but at least Stray was leading the charge, and it looks like they're going to back it up with more content. So I'm appreciative of that. And my co-host really still believes Stray should have been Game of the Year.
It should have been. It caught the world by storm.
If part 2 or the DLC, well, if it's DLC, then it probably won't make it into the category. But if part 2 makes it into the category, that would be crazy with the type of big games that's coming out this year and has already come out that's in that category. But Summer Games Show, I think from the shows that have come out so far, we're about halfway in. I think that one was the best show overall. Yes. Afterwards, everything else, there was some stuff here and there, some stuff that was more tongue-in-cheek, and then there was a couple of things where it's just like, I don't even know why you even did this. But I guess with the Summer Game Show, we'll start off with that, and then we're going to talk about Guerrilla Collective Showcase, Devolver Direct, and the Day of the Developers. I think that's what that was called.
Yeah, Day of the Dev. That's a play on Day of the Dev.
Okay. And then I don't think my co-host saw it, but I did see the Tribeca show and the accessibility show. And I'll talk about that briefly towards the very, very end. We're going to spend more bulk of time on the other ones because I think there was more content to pull out of it. And then little things here and there, little updates here and there. So stick around and hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for the increased views on last week's show, which was I guess the big 50 episodes. I guess Ian, this is the 51. So is it 52 weeks in a year? Isn't that what they say?
Yeah.
Maybe we've been doing this officially at least about a year on record, you know.
Yeah.
And then next week,
Summer Games Fest would make the year mark. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. It's we were just having a conversation. Obviously, like we actually have been talking about these type of things off record for much longer, and so we decided we'll do that. And then I've been doing a lot of solo content as well. My co-host also mentioned he was going to do solo content that's going to be coming very soon, and then yeah, let's talk about the show. So I think the show started off very, very good with the Prince of Persia announcement. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I remember this being a game where they originally was announcing it, and then they kind of had like news saying it's probably canceled, and like we didn't hear about it for a long time. And then if I remember correctly, some news source actually tried to confirm that it was canceled. I remember they pretty much confirmed it was canceled, and we didn't think too much of it after that. And then next thing you know, boom, here it is at the very beginning. I don't know if that was a play to make this a stronger opening, announcing that it was canceled, but it is here now and it's back. So Prince of Persia is back. It's got a new look. How you feel about it?
So I don't think this was the original Prince of Persia that was being advertised before, because the one before was a remake.
Okay.
And that one was because that was the Sands of Time remake, and that seems to have disappeared.
I think that's correct.
This is a nice surprise.
Yeah.
It looks great to me, and I don't know why. I'm liking the side scroller look. It just looked action packed. The graphics look great. This is at the top of my list of games to get right now. One near the top. Yeah, I think it looks great.
For anybody who wants to familiarize themselves with that franchise, a lot of people have moved on to, I guess, Assassin's Creed, but this was kind of like Assassin's Creed before it, at least just for some of the content. It's not exactly like Assassin's Creed, but if you wanted to, I know on Xbox side, you could still buy a lot of those old games on the storefront. And then other than that, with all these handheld devices, you probably could, pull up through emulation or support your local mom and pop stores. I've seen a few of these older games in the mom and pop stores. But Prince of Persia was a bigger deal back in the PS2-ish to PS3 generation, like right around that time. I think GameCube as well. And then it kind of just died out. It was just Assassin's Creed came, and then other kind of games like that, and it just kind of went away. So it came back. I thought it was a nice showing. They followed that up with Mortal Kombat 1's gameplay, which looks great. They showed off a lot of fatalities and everything, and I was already, sold on Mortal Kombat. I think a lot of people, anybody at this point with Mortal Kombat, you're kind of sold. But I guess it opens up, at least with the naming, it opens up for, I guess, new people to just jump in. But I can tell from little details that it's technically not new, right?
No, as a comic book fan, I love this. So a lot of good comic books, basically, you get to a point where you're so deep into stories and you're running out of things to do that they end up rebooting. There's always some big event where they reboot everything. And the ones that actually take care for the reboot, it's always because of this event, things are rebooted. And I feel like that's what this one's doing, right? Because of the events of MK11, you're able to start fresh. People can jump in fresh to get to know people, but it's not completely abandoning the people who's been there from before. Right, they still get to see stuff. I heard that a lot of I think he mentioned in the show that because I like the support character thing that they're doing. That's interesting. Yeah. but they said that a lot of the support characters are going to be from previous time. Like it's going to be the older versions of certain
Mm.
characters. So I think that's cool. The fighting looked great. I'm just controversial thought. I think this should have been the thing that ended the show instead of the Final Fantasy reveal.
Okay.
Um, I don't know, like the Final Fantasy thing. I was just like, eh. Like the ending felt kind of for me, where I thought this was a little more.
More
I guess,
impactful. Well, I think
yeah, because
Final
like,
Fantasy's rebirth, like it was kind of understood for anybody who has played the remake of 7 that they were still going to do a second game, but it
uh,
wasn't properly shown for the first time. Where if they kept this one last, we technically already seen it. Like if anything,
true,
it would have been something that we haven't seen before. Like even Sonic Superstars we didn't see before, right? But we
yeah,
saw
I guess
Remedy
that makes
2. Yeah, but yeah, I could see what you're saying. It was like that was still more impactful. So like Mortal Kombat, I guess that's supposed to come out this September 19th. I did think that
sense.
was interesting because that's the exact same day as Lies of P. Um,
Oh,
yeah, that was also mentioning that it was September 19th, but there's also a demo that's out for it right now. I'm
I
probably going to
grabbed it.
download it on both platforms. Yeah, it's a demo, and then there's also like the boss fight within the demo.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and Liza P. Apparently, Liza P. is like a Souls game done right, from what I've been hearing so far. Where
Oh.
people were saying like Wolong Fallen Dynasty was a little too easy because you can just like jump the boss and everything, and so this one is, I guess, polished a little bit better and
So
done a
I
little bit.
watched some gameplay for it. I downloaded the
Yeah.
demo, and then I didn't know the demo was out until I saw someone playing it. Because I did that like before I
Mm-hmm.
watched the game show, or the summer show, and it does look good. Like,
Yeah.
uh, pairing looks difficult. I don't know if
Yeah.
it was just the person playing it had a hard time doing it, but like most of the times he went for a parry, he failed. So it looks like it's
Yeah.
very timing reliant. Like you have to be on point. Um, but it looks good. Looks good.
I haven't gotten around to playing all the Souls like that's like not from software, but I have been buying all of them, and I will definitely pay for this one as well. It's on all of my wish lists, and I think this one is not a $70 game. I think this one is 60.
Oh,
So yeah. So we kind of skipped ahead, but that's okay. Path of Exile 2. Did you like that? I looked at that. I
yeah.
thought it was kind of chaotic, but it looked okay. It looked cool.
It looked okay. It wasn't on my list. I was kind of writing down the ones that were like
Yeah.
major impressive for me. It was okay.
Was there anything else that they've shown that? Because I know on my list I've skipped a few things here and there.
Yeah.
Was there anything
So for
before
me,
Path for? Yeah.
I don't remember. Was Nicolas Cage before Path of Exile?
I don't think he was before it, but we could talk about it because I wrote him down and I put LOL because I thought he was kind of hilarious. Because he
Oh
kind of
yeah.
was just, he was a little out of place, but he was just doing his thing.
Yep.
It just seems so odd that he was there still. It reminds me of the Whoopi Goldberg kind of thing that I'm gonna talk about a little bit later, her brief story. But
Yeah.
he's just kind of there, and he's just in the game, and he's mentioning that, like he mentioned he's playing like other personas of himself from other
Uh huh.
movies and stuff. But it's like, oh, it's just Nick Cage, and I guess it's funny because like the render of him was like way skinnier than what
Yes.
he was.
Yes, I noticed that too. The render was skinny, and like it did look a little awkward with
Yeah.
him in the game because like also you don't really, I guess, pay attention that a lot of the like characters in there isn't a lot of facial expressions going on when you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
But because they were really showing off that it's Nick Cage, all you saw was him like running and vaulting, but like his like he wasn't making any facial expressions. It was just like Nick Cage just face from like a still image as he's like
Yeah.
running.
Yeah.
And I love that he said he recorded voice lines for it because outside of like screaming, like just like like you don't really they don't say anything. So that's what I'm like, is he gonna just be talking the whole time?
Yeah. He
Uh
was really trying to sell that too. Like it's all me, and I'm
yep.
really in this and stuff. I'm like,
Like
okay.
And I'm like, homie, I was already sold when they said you was gonna be in it. I was already planning to get it. So like you didn't need to try to sell it further. But I really hope, because they like to do alternate, costumes and things like that. If
Yeah.
they can get the licensing, I hope all of his costumes are just different movie roles.
Different movies, like when he was like Batman in that other movie or something. Like
Ghost Rider? What was he, Batman?
No, not Ghost Rider. Yeah, Ghost Rider too, but he was playing in that movie with that little girl, the actress who you could see Batman her nose.
Yeah. Wait, are we gonna get canceled for saying the name? It's the title. Kick-Ass?
Yeah, we ain't gonna get canceled for that. But
like, I mean, we're not canceled, but like YouTube get mad.
Oh, yeah, Kick-Ass. That one's more tame compared to other stuff, but
that's true. I didn't read their guidelines, but
well, we like 15 minutes in.
Yeah.
Like, give us a break. Jeez, we trying.
Right?
We're trying to be nice.
That's because his name.
Yeah, it was something like that. He was the Batman and stuff, and yeah, it's funny. Nick Cage has been like in so many different films though. But yeah, it just seemed out of place. But it's funny because he's more welcomed in this compared to like Vin Diesel. Like if you notice, like Vin Diesel was like not necessarily rejected, but it was like didn't nobody care about his games and stuff. And when he was showing up on like stages and stuff, didn't nobody care what he had to say about it or whatever. When he was talking about his games, like when they did the Fast and Furious game that is currently delisted, like they didn't really have that much of a welcome, but Nick Cage did. I do think Keanu Reeves was probably still like the biggest when he did his. I think last week I mentioned about Will Smith having his game. That one is more not as it's more laughed at from what I was seeing, but at least Nick Cage is a little bit more positive. Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing more people show up. I think Idris Elba, is that his name? Did I say it right?
Idris Elba.
Yeah. He's supposed to be in the DLC for Cyberpunk, which I don't know if it's out yet or not. But
I don't think so.
Yeah, he was in that. I don't know. I'm pretty sure there's more people. There was that one video game that was shown at one of those earlier shows, probably back this past winter or maybe even before that, where it was almost like the Expendables, where they just had a whole bunch of people, and there was like really Vice City like.
Well, it was Welcome to Rockay City.
Yeah,
it was
like
bad.
Everybody.
Yo, that game was bad. I was watching gameplay footage for it. No. Basically, the combat was horrible. It was a roguelike, so it's just you do stuff until pretty much you die and then you gotta restart.
Okay.
However, a lot of times it looked like the story just kind of continues, like as if you did it, and then like, or you just have to replay the level or everything, or you could jump around and stuff, and it was just not good. And like the acting was all hammed in because there's a bunch of people who don't care about video, or they're old, so they're like old, but it's supposed to be playing.
It was just like a cameo game, basically. Yeah. Yep. So, well, I guess we can move on. They showed Remnant 2 gameplay at this show.
That was the next thing on my list.
I was pretty happy to see it. It was Remnant 2 also showed up on Guerrilla Collective, so I guess we could mention it here. But I was happy to see Remnant 2's gameplay. It was pretty cool. On the Guerrilla show, though, was when they were actually talking more story. They were showing story. It wasn't just like a person and a dog and another person. But yeah, Remnant 2 is still a very good co-op Souls-like game. I definitely still recommend everybody play the first one if you haven't. You can really lean on your co-players and stuff if you feel like you're not that strong, because I wasn't really that strong at the time when we played, and then I kind of got better towards the end, and then confidence really went through the roof once I played Code Vein. But yeah, it's cool to see that this game is getting like a proper showing, because it's not really like when Remnant 1 came out and everything, I looked at it as like one of those games where it wasn't on the level of a high level like game. You know what I mean? Like it seemed like it's being treated higher than what it probably would be. Like it's a mid-carder almost. in a way. A mid-carder that got the title a little bit earlier. That's kind of how I look at it. But it's getting a lot of traction. So if people really, gravitate towards this one, you might see a third one. I'm only just a little bit worried that they might do something like make it a little too easy, seeing that they might get more eyes on it. Because if anything, they're looking at the difficulty compared to Elden Ring. And hardcore players said Elden Ring was one of the easiest. And that's the one that everybody jumped in on. It was everybody was a Souls player overnight because of Elden Ring, and then we had all these Souls games that's coming out now, right? Remnant is somehow having a bigger profile. Remnant and Liza P, I would say, have bigger profiles compared to like some of the other ones, but these are all post Elden Ring games, so we gotta remember, like, it might have, like, some quote unquote accessibility to it. So, but yeah, I'm still happy to see it. You was happy to see it? Yeah.
I was. I think the gameplay looks great. The story thing that happened at the Guerrilla one looks great. That was my fear too, that it was starting to look a little too easy, but I had that from like watching some of the trailers earlier. From like other stuff. And seeing some gameplay and everything. But yeah, it still looks good. I'm still excited for it. Can't wait to play it.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. Like, when I was seeing it in more than one show, I was like, man, do I want to buy this day one? Because I remember I was telling you before, I was like, yeah, we got so many other stuff that we're kind of like in, and stuff that we might not even get to it right away. But I don't know. I might want to shoehorn it in. We might see. We'll see as time goes on. The next thing that I wrote down was Sonic Superstars. I felt like this particular version of the Sonic game, I wrote down in my notes that this was Sonic done right.
Okay.
I felt like, because I still kind of stand on what I was saying before about Sonic Frontiers, that was not Sonic done correctly. This looked more like how he should look. It should be, have more of a modern day look, but you have the gameplay being more of a classic Sonic gameplay. That's how I feel like it should be. They showed a lot of, little stuff here and there. You still got Tails, you got Knuckles, and you got, different varieties of gameplay. Did you pick this? Is this one of the games you liked?
It was not, but like, not that it was bad by any means. It just looked like some of the other Sonic games to me.
Sure.
But I did see, funny enough, somebody was apparently a reaction from someone who was there, like in the crowd, and he said the guy behind him went crazy. Shout out to GamerRanks. He said that when they showed it, the dude behind him was like, "Here's Sonic," and he's like, "Oh," and Tails, "Oh," and then here's like Knuckles, like, "Oh man," and it was like, and he said when they said, "Here's Amy," he absolutely lost it, like when excitement.
Oh my gosh!
So it was. He said, so it looks like it's good for the Sonic fans. So.
I got a question for you though. Do you think that this represents Sonic a little bit better than Frontiers, or do you think they should keep evolving, I guess, in that area?
I want to see them, I guess, try something like Frontiers again. However, I feel like this is better for Sonic. Like the classic Sonic play is just better for Sonic because, to me, I feel like it's easier to keep things fast-paced in a side-scroller than it is in an open world.
Yeah.
And Sonic needs to be fast-paced. It's always the weird thing of, like, I know some people, for example, are Flash fans, and it's like, how do you do a Flash video game or something like that? And how do you do a Sonic video game where it's like the whole thing is super speed? It's weird to do in an open world.
Right.
I want to know if they can. I don't want them to quit trying to figure out a way for Sonic to evolve, but they should definitely have at least these as the not back burner, but like have these planned out as well. Cause like you need these to keep Sonic going.
Right.
I guess in the same way that like I like that Pokemon's trying to do more open world sort of thing, but it's like I still like the old ones, right? Like I
Right.
still want the straightforward ones. So yeah.
Okay. I guess we could jump ahead slightly because you mentioned Pokemon, and this is another game that was shown on this showcase that I didn't think was going to be shown, like a like get this big traction. But Pal World returned,
That's been on my list for the longest.
and yeah, this is another one almost like Remnant, a little bit more than Remnant that I didn't think was going to be shown on like this type of show and shown on maybe one of the other ones because it's got a it's surrounded by a lot of bigger names that was shown on Jeff Keighley's show. And at the same time, there's like, because even Jeff Keighley mentioned Pokemon. And right now, like Nintendo is very running rampant about like Zelda and like other stuff and all the leaks and stuff. And it's like, here's a game where it literally mimics Pokemon, but then it puts like the stuff in there that makes it like really not PG, like the gunplay and everything. And
however, they made their own designs.
Yeah.
Like they can't do nothing about it. They took down that other one before Power World, the one where somebody just made Pokemon where you're just hunting them down.
Yeah, it was like the actual Pokemon too. Like they were shooting at what was the Zapdos? Yeah, it was a boss fight and stuff. I was like, yo, it was kind of crazy to see people actually point a gun at one of them. But yeah, it was interesting because I think in this trailer, this was the first time I've seen in Pow World where they had like a not necessarily a Pokeball, but I don't know what it's called, but it's working like a Pokeball because you still could catch them and like put them on your team, and then you pull out your guns. I don't know how that's gonna work, but this is definitely gonna be a game. Yeah, I'm not gonna get it on the Switch. I would definitely take advantage of the 60 frames somewhere else. I hope it is gonna have 60 or more. It'll be on one of the other consoles or PC. But I will get this. Maybe not day one, but I will get this. I will try it. It'll be a good alternative. Nintendo needs some competition. They're having some competition now in a lot of different things. It looks like it's going to be software and hardware. So, yikes. But shout out to Tears of the Kingdom. That's still one of my current games that I'm playing. But yeah, Power World is here. I appreciate it. That did jump over one of the bigger games that I think is bigger for me, which was Alan Wake 2 that they showed. In Jeff Keighley's show, there was a live crowd there. I almost was expecting, like I was expecting somebody to boo. It didn't seem like anybody booed here. So I don't know if the Alan Wake's controversy with like no physical disc is like, maybe it's not affecting the people in that crowd, but they showed respect here to the developer who came on stage and everything. Did nobody like cackle this game? And they just showed the game. I'm still very much excited for it. I am still going to go through Control before it, like I said I was in my solo vid, as well as the other game that's not technically related, but I believe it was Quantum Break. But this looked good. It still looks very much like Resident Evil 2 Remake to me.
Yeah.
They introduced this other character. Yeah, they introduced this black character, the girl. She has a traditional FBI outfit on, and you can see the FBI on her back. And every time I saw that reminded me of Leon in Resident Evil 2. And they had the same kind of over the shoulder view from more modern games compared to just being plain third person the way Alan Wake 1 was. And it looked like it was shot where it was like more horror-ish, than the way it was before. Which Resident Evil 2 is still a great game. I don't mind them copying that formula if that's what they were going with. But yeah, that's what it reminded me of. It does have a bigger buzz, so we might see more Alan Wake content. I thought I was the only one in the bubble who was into Alan Wake. But Alan Wake has a little bit more, I guess.
They got a fan base.
They got a fan base. How do you feel about this one? Did you write this down or did you?
No, just because it was shown before. Like I know I wrote some of them down that was shown before.
Right.
This one I was like, like it looks great. It does look great.
Yeah.
But I still haven't played the other Alan Wakes or Control or Quantum Break.
Okay.
So it's not one of my like day one buys. But I probably would eventually play it. I definitely at least want to watch it like be played.
Okay.
It does look good. It looks like it looks like they put in the work for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that I do like.
Now, speaking of being shown before, I think the very next thing that I wrote down was Spider-Man 2. They showed off, I guess, the art, which is going to be the... they showed a lot of art, like, pieces where it was, like, more still shots of some really cool-looking stuff, but I think they showed the cover is what I meant to say. They showed the cover, and
I wish they would have kind of waited. I didn't want the Venom reveal.
Yeah.
To be personally, I wanted to wait till the game came out.
Okay.
See, Venom, but it's fine.
I found it really interesting how they were kind of like teasing, because I think Jeff Keighley was not cultured. Like he was like, "Is Venom Eddie Brock?" And then dude like corrected him like right away. It was like, "It's not Eddie Brock," but then didn't say who it was, and I was just like, "Well,
it's gonna be hairy.
I'm like, I guess everybody else should know, but." I guess they didn't want to say it, but then it was interesting because they didn't say that, but then literally showed him, and I wasn't expecting them to show him, but they did show him, and then afterwards, we got the official release day, which is October 20th, so it's going to be more of like a Halloween-ish release, which is interesting because
gift for me.
Okay,
my birthday's around that time, so birthday gift for me.
It's interesting. I think we could segue for a split second because I remember there was all this news, like, wasn't it a month ago or something, where the news was like, oh, it's going to be coming out in September?
That's what everything was saying, and I kept saying, I don't think so, because it just kept saying fall. But everything was saying September, and
I thought it was confirmed. I didn't think too much of it, because I was just like, oh, it's just going to come out in September.
No, it's October.
I remember... I guess Starfield's release date was supposed to be, it still is as of right now in September, I think September 8th. And I remember seeing a lot of people putting up graphics and stuff where they were like kind of comparing those two as being like big releases coming out at the same time. And they were doing a lot of that type of stuff. But I guess no, it's in October, which is fine. I mean, as long as it's coming out this year, it looks like it was definitely polished enough. From the content that we saw at the PlayStation show, I think we understand majority of the story outside of Kraven. But
that's what I didn't like, because it feels like, unless there's going to be more surprises, it does feel like every part of the story to me is spoiled with logic. But to talk about that actually a little bit more, separately, they talked about the different editions on Twitter.
Okay.
So the game, right, is your normal new $69.99.
Right.
But then and if you pre-order it, you get early unlocks 2 of the suits. These 2 suits are in the game. You just get to unlock them, or like without having to do in-game stuff to unlock them. You can have them unlocked at the start. That's that. Now, besides that, there is the $79.99, so the $80 version. It's the digital deluxe edition.
Okay.
So it's purely digital, and it comes with 10 unique suits. So 5. You called it that they were going to do this.
This is the only way of getting it.
Peter and 5 for Miles, and it's only. However, they did say, because somebody asked, and this is what I needed to confirm. If you buy it physical, you'll be able to pay basically like a little up, like the $10 thingy for the.
So they monetize the suits.
They monetize 10 of the suits. Okay. You called it. Because somebody was like, I don't want the digital version. I get physical. So does that mean I can't get these suits? And they were like, you'll be able to pay for an upgrade to have those suits. So
Jim Ryan went there. So how do you feel about that? Because this is
upset because like. The whole big thing of the first one is all of it was, I mean, outside of like certain suits were tied to DLC, but it wasn't like pay for specifically just the suits. And that's
Right,
what
you
they're
paid for
doing
the
now.
DLC and you got the full package of the DLC,
Yep.
and it came
And
with
they even
Hammerhead and all that other stuff. Yeah.
they have one for Miles called the Tokusatsu suit, which is basically the Power Ranger suit. So it's just like I want that, and like now you're tying it behind like I'm gonna have to probably pay $10 extra to get it because I don't want the digital version.
So
That's
now,
what bothers me.
so at the very least, they're not sold individually though. You will just
No,
pay the
probably it's
difference.
gonna be the difference.
Okay.
If not a little bit less or a little bit more. They didn't say, but you'll
So
pay the difference and you unlock the extra ton.
which version are you gonna get? Because you were getting this day one,
I
right?
want and I want the physical one. I don't want a
Okay.
digital copy. So I'm
Now,
gonna get the physical, and I'll probably pay the $10 to get the extra suits. I'm part of the problem,
okay.
but like it bothers me that I would have to do that.
But for anybody
However,
else, like let's say next year Black Friday time, like this game will be discounted, and then afterwards you probably will still pay the same for the difference for the
little
DLC.
yeah. Yep.
But it won't be that much of a money grab for you if you chose a physical version, basically.
Correct. Now there is one more version of this game though.
Okay.
That I almost would have pre-ordered. It costs $230. It
Collector's
comes with
edition.
the collector's edition. It comes with a steel book.
Okay.
And the cover of the steel book is the image that they showed at the
Okay.
Summer Fest. It also comes with a 19-inch statue of the two Spider-Men fighting Venom.
Oh.
Which is what almost made me want to get it because I did that for Injustice as well, even though that one was like $110, and it also came with a comic book.
So what's stopping you from getting it?
Poster. Because this one, the collector's edition, it comes with the steel book, but then it only comes with the digital version of the game.
Oh, they went there again.
Yeah, full digital PS5 game.
You would think after like
steel book display case.
Yeah, you would think after Horizon, and then I think they did it with God of War. That because there was backlashes each time, but not as big as they probably should have been, because people were still excited to play the games. But you would think that PlayStation would have taken note of that and at least just included a disc in there, because in order for you to like get the full package, even though it's a collector's package, you're basically in a position where you have to buy the disc version again, which means you buy the game twice, which is not a coincidence. This is absolutely done on purpose. They've absolutely sat down, had meetings, and figured it out. Right? This is a corporation. It's crazy that they would go there. Yeah.
If this had a physical disc in the steel book, I would have been spending $230. Like I would have done it. I would have regretted it after, but I would have done it. Because I like statues and like those type of collectibles. I like those to be able to look at, but it's just I want this a physical disc. I don't know.
Right.
Like it's just if I don't want a digital disc, I want a physical disc, and having just the case is not enough. Like I want a disc. So
it just because it also makes it so weird though when you have a steelbook. It's like because you would open it and it would have a spot to literally put a disc in, but then there's no actual disc for you to put it in theoretically. So it's just like that's a little disappointing to hear that they're still doing that. I think going forward there just needs to be a much bigger backlash for that type of thing. Unfortunately, it wasn't really like that with the God of War thing. I think a lot of people still really liked the Thor hammer because that was the main draw for buying that, and then I guess the steelbook for there. But I think going forward, I don't know how many more bigger PlayStation games that's going to be coming out that's going to be bigger than Spider-Man 2 or God of War or Ragnarok, but like there has to be some form of an outcry though for that type of thing, or we will see situations like that keep happening, as well as with the other games like Alan Wake 2. Unfortunate, but I'm still looking forward to playing that game. Definitely. The next thing that I had wrote down was Black Desert. I don't know if you saw that. I think that was like probably one of the weaker ones that I wrote down that's on this list, because I think that one is like one of the MMOs. But it comes out. Oh, I forgot to mention. So Alan Wake 2 release date was October 17th. I'm looking at it on my paper. But yeah, and then Spider-Man's is October 20th. So Alan Wake might get spanked there. As much as I like it, I think it's gonna get spanked there a little bit. But anyways, Black Desert, that's supposed to actually come out June 14th, so right around the corner. But I think this is more of an MMO game. I just liked how it looked, so I wrote it down. Anything that you wrote down? Anything else for this?
For game wise,
yeah, the next one.
Even though it was already on there, Warhammer Space Marine 2.
Okay.
But then also Sandland, I wrote down.
Okay.
This is Akira Toriyama, so Dragon Ball Z art style. So I wrote that one down.
One that I wrote down, I put a star by it. I got a couple of these I got stars by because I've featured them before on my channel. So this was Banisher's Ghost of New Eden. This was something that I talked about a while back. So we finally saw more information on this. It looked really good graphic wise. We get more about the story, of what it's about. It's more, I guess you're kind of fighting, I don't want to say vampires, but it seemed something like that. Like you fighting some monsters, basically.
Okay.
So I'm excited to see more information on that. The next thing that I wrote down, this probably is considered more of a bigger game. This one could have probably went last. So this was Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. The series Like a Dragon in America, it used to be the Yakuza series. In Japan, it was always Like a Dragon, so they're going with Like a Dragon worldwide. So no more Yakuza, I guess, but it's still the same franchise basically. This comes out November 9th. I thought it was good. It was a lot of, like kung fu action. The gameplay looked pretty solid for what it was. Did you like this? Did you see this?
It looked good. It's just because I haven't played the other Yakuza or Like a Dragon games. I didn't write it on my list, but it does look good.
Yeah, there's so many of them now at this point. They got a certain formula. It's almost like Capcom. They got a certain formula for that series that they stick with. The next thing, I want to make sure I pronounce this correctly. Lysfanga, the Time Shift Warrior. I don't know if I said that completely. But the Time Shift Warrior, I'll just call it that because I can't say the other part. It looked cool. It looks like a Hades-like game. Top down, you play as this black girl who's like a warrior, and she's like, hacking, slashing all over the place. This was more like it looks more like one of the indie games that I've been showing lately.
Okay.
It looks like that. It looks good though. I thought it looked good. And then I only have one other game on here, but I want to mention right before that. They did show some footage for the Twisted Metal show, and they had my man who plays the new Captain America, Captain Falcon.
Anthony Mackie.
They had him in. They basically buried him because like Sweet Tooth for Twisted Metal was just beating him up and like smacking him all over the place. I'm like, why did you take this role? You clearly didn't need to take this role. You was past this role, sir. You was a whole captain now.
It should be fun.
he get beat up and slapped and manhandled all over the place by Sweet Tooth. The guy who voiced Sweet Tooth, I guess he did like a cameo or something, or he showed up via satellite, basically.
Isn't it Will Arnett?
Yeah, and then I remember reading before that the body was supposed to be Samoa Joe. But this didn't look like Samoa Joe. Maybe they did some CGI work around it. It didn't really look like that was Samoa Joe to me. I was like, I know what Samoa Joe looked like. I watched wrestling forever. But yeah, I don't know. Did it look like Samoa Joe to you? That didn't look like.
But I'm going to take their word that it is Samoa Joe, but it really didn't.
Because I was like, that ain't him. Who is that? Maybe. I don't know. You know who they probably should have got? They should have got Monster Matanga. Whoever, Jeff Cobb. They probably should have got him.
Oh, yeah.
He would have been more beefier because it looked like they made him beefier. And I'm like, Samoa Joe, he's a big boy, but he didn't look that big. But whatever. But yeah, so they were showing that little clip where they were beating up Captain Falcon to promote the show. And then the very last game that I had on here was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Not necessarily something I'm looking forward to. I'm actually technically in the Pixel stuff right now, even though I haven't touched it in like 2 weeks. The Pixel collection, so the very, very, very first Final Fantasy. Yeah, this was here. This is the part 2 to the remake. They said it's going to be coming out early 2024. And they mentioned this is going to definitely have a physical collection. They made mention that it's going to be 2 discs. And I thought it was interesting because with the Final Fantasy games for that community, from what me talking from the outside looking in, they were very, very prideful over Final Fantasy VII, the original. And I believe that one was a 4-disc game on PlayStation 1, and it basically went forever if you were a kid. You know, a kid who didn't get the ability to just buy games as much as you wanted. So that was a big deal for the kids. But when they did this remake, the game basically got split into 2, and then they had like the Intergrid thing at one point. And so I guess that's where that emphasis is coming in. It's like, okay, we're making sure that the rest of the story is here in completion. I think that's why they said 2 discs. But yeah, when you get the physical copy, it will be a 2-disc game. How did you feel about this? So this was something, you're not burying it, but you was just like, you didn't think it should have been last.
Yeah, I didn't think it should have been. Well, I don't know. It was just kind of like, oh, it's there. Like, it was like, oh, it's there. It's Final Fantasy. And I think the last few shows that I have seen, the ending has always been Final Fantasy. Yeah. And I guess because I'm not like a super big Final Fantasy person, for me it's been kind of okay, like cool. For Final Fantasy people, it looks cool. Yeah. But like, so yeah, I don't know.
I wasn't too much into the turn base because I felt like it slowed down the action because it was like really action heavy and then it slowed it down. Where I guess Final Fantasy 16 there is no turn base. So I like as of right now I'm more interested in Final Fantasy 16. And I think it looks a little bit better in my opinion. But because I have Intergrid through I guess PS Plus and then this is coming out afterwards and I'm kind of playing the Pixel, you know, on my Game Boy, it's like I want to give it another shot. Because the full game is there. So I want to give it another shot since I technically have it through PS Plus. And then if I really do like it, I'll go on to this one. Okay. Yeah, and that was the last thing. So I think overall, Jeff Keighley's show was more of a 7.5 to an 8 out of 10. I liked a lot of the stuff there. There was some stuff there that I didn't really care for, but it wasn't like terrible. It wasn't presented terrible. He didn't have like 50 orchestra bands playing music from games and people singing it and stuff. It was just straight stuff, you know. I think this is one of his better shows. How do you feel?
I agree with you. Like good 7.5.
7.5.
Good show. Yeah, it didn't feel like. Yeah, I agree with you. Exactly how you put it. Nothing felt like a waste of time.
All right, so I do want to mention real quick, we can go into the halfway point where I just talk about the unofficial sponsor. That's going to be Epic Games, where we talk about their free games and how you can get them and how, remember, you don't need a credit card. You can just create a profile and then add these games to your profile. And then when you do get a PC, you'll have a whole bunch of games to choose from. Shout out to the ROG Asus Ally. I didn't really mention it. It's not really going to get mentioned anywhere else on the show, but I think that still comes out. So the Xbox show comes out Sunday. This is going to be released Sunday, but that's going to come out Sunday later on in the afternoon. And then the ROG Ally is coming out either 2 or 3 days after. But in their presentation of that system before, they made mention to make everybody aware that all the different platformers launchers are going to be accessible without it being too hard to get to, which is going to include like the the PS Plus, Game Pass, Epic Game Store, and Steam. And so if you were collecting everything all this time, like I told you, you would have a whole bunch of stuff, and then you can buy that, and then you can just have it all right then and there. And that's something that I plan to do at some point. But for the free games, the one that they're having that's available right now as of this recording until June 15th is Payday 2. And they're not doing that mystery game thing anymore. I thought it was interesting.
They were going to continue, and they stopped.
I don't even know why they stopped or why they did it to begin with, because it was just kind of random, and the games still seem to be of the same quality to an extent.
I think I was right. There was mystery because they didn't know what they were going to release.
Oh, probably. But they decided that from June 15th to June 22nd that they're giving you the Guacamelee series. So you're going to get the Super Turbo edition for part 1 and then Guacamelee part 2. It's funny enough, this is a game series that I started and hadn't finished yet. I think you said you finished the first one.
Finished the first one, got to start the second one soon. So
yeah, so you'll get to have both of them. Oddly enough, this is a game that also gives you a light understanding, very light, but a light understanding of Spanish. If you are somebody who is currently trying to learn Spanish, or maybe you were, or you might want to practice, it helped me a little bit actually when I was like really into it. But yeah, they have that. Also want to mention they do still have their Epic coupon, which gives you 25% off. I think I mentioned it before. I think that is over on June 15th, so it's like right around the corner. But with like the sales, I did see under Epic Store Gotham Knights was like $19 and some change, and if you use this Epic 25% off coupon, it's going to be just under $15. And I'm thinking I might actually do that because I don't have anything else to buy it with. But yeah, that's just an option. You need to buy at least, you would have to buy a game that's $14.99 or more in order for the coupon to qualify. But Gotham Knights was like $19. I think they were showing that it was like,
I think that's worth it.
Yeah, it'll go down to like $15. And then the PC version, maybe there's a nice little mod out there where somebody got the frame rate right. So I'm thinking that's where I might actually get it. Yeah. And then after that, I guess we can get into our next showcase, which is the Guerrilla Collective showcase. Yes.
Yeah, first thing I want to say, too long.
Too long of a show.
Just 3 hours straight.
So how long? Like, 3 hours?
I think it's because 3 hours, if like they showed off like 5 to 10 minutes of gameplay per thing, I can understand, but it was still like, here's a minute trailer for like a lot of stuff. Yeah. And it was just 3 hours. And I was like, there's no, because like, it's just, I understand like not everything felt like interesting. But I feel like sometimes certain games that aren't as good will still look better if there's less things shown, I think, sometimes. So, and I think, for example, because I told you, where like the Summer Games Fest, it was like, here's our first surprise, like starting off now, and it was like, boom, Prince of Persia, like that looked great. Whereas for this one, it was like, all right, guys, let's start this thing off strong, and the game looked like it came out of the 90s, and not like in a good way. So I didn't even write it down, but it was just like, there was a lot of these where it was just like, So I feel like when it's 3 hours of that, you're more easily going to turn away or go do something else and then miss things. Yeah, there was a few times I had to rewind, and it'll be like I ended up missing like 4 games in a row.
Yeah, so this show wasn't as strong, nowhere near as strong as Jeff Keighley's show. I did have a few things that I pulled out from it, but I do have here in my notes that I thought the intro was trash. Not to really be too negative, but I thought the hosts just didn't have, the guy and the girl that was sitting at the table or whatever, they just seemed like they didn't have chemistry and that they were like really just low energy. Yeah. It was just kind of like, well, we don't really, because as a viewer who's just viewing the show, you kind of just want to see back-to-back trailers anyway. It was almost like, well, you didn't really need to be here if you didn't, like, I don't know, maybe it just didn't have the energy to me. They didn't have the energy to me. But the one game, I guess the first game that did start out, that, what am I trying to say? The first game that I saw that I did like under this showcase, I think was called Europa, which was like a fantasy platformer kind of game. It was a lot of platforming, but it looked more, it almost looked like it was like a person in a make-believe world, and there was like a lot of glitter, a lot of stuff happening. So it looked like one of those like PC type platformers, but I'm big on platformers. I might actually feature this trailer again with a few other trailers that we mentioned from the last show when I do that next like game update for the month. A lot of trailers from some of these shows is going to show up there, because before I was like, okay, they didn't really come out with a lot that I liked, and I think this is probably why, because maybe everybody was just waiting or just like saving all their stuff for one of these shows, and so not too much that came out for me to make another one of those videos. But now, you know, okay, this is closing the gap, and so this is probably going to be one of them that I liked. And then they did show Remnant 2, the story. I think we talked about that already. Was there anything else that you saw from this show?
Oh, so for the show, I do have a few games. So for me, WrestleQuest was the biggest one.
Okay. So that was more like an RPG, like it's more turn-based of wrestling. It's not necessarily actually wrestling, though, right?
Correct. And I was waiting for this one. It was supposed to come out last month, but they had to push it to July or to August, I think. But I'm still excited for that one. Demon School seemed kind of interesting. It was like three people trying to take down a bunch of demons, and they go to school. So you got to manage school life with fighting.
Right.
Ollie Frog Toad Skater. There's another one.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
It was just old school Tony Hawk, but you're a frog.
It was fighting too. Wasn't they fighting a little bit? If I remember correctly? Yeah, some fighting in there. Yeah.
So there was that, and then Nocturnal looked good.
Okay.
That one's out now too, but it's like a side scroller platformer, and you got some powers.
I had one called Light Odyssey. It looked more like a top-down Souls-like. They were showing a lot of boss fights. Typical stuff I'm into. But yeah, I like that one. I gotta say, yeah, go ahead.
Cuddly Carnage, the cat one. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there was another new game I saw. I think it was called Grime Tinge of Terror. I'm gonna be honest, I wrote it down, but I don't remember that one too much. I'm sorry, but I wrote it down. Two other games that I actually shown in a video before was here. Super Adventure Hand, that was the one that kind of looks, you know, like Addams Family Hand, you know, thing.
Yeah, I did see that one.
So that was here. I've showcased that before, and I put that on my wish list. I haven't bought it yet, but I have that. And then Vengeance of Mr. Peppermint, which is like you're playing like this dude who's like 2D John Wick almost, and he's just like bashing everybody's face in. So I've mentioned that before. I thought that was early on and they didn't have too much extra footage to show, but I guess they had something here to put it on this show. So that was like the last one, I guess, that I had. For the show overall, it just wasn't as good, obviously, as Jeff Keighley's. Yes, it was very long, but I'll let everybody else know, like, I watch these shows like on multiple screens, so I'm able to take half and cut it and put it on another screen and just start at a halfway point on one screen. And so I cut it down. It wasn't too hard for me. But
same thing, I did not.
But yeah, like when they long like that, maybe we should probably, for anybody out there, even if you don't have two screens, maybe you could split screen it, like split screen the window, and you have the first half right here. You can mute it, because whenever something good shows up, I would mute the rest, or I would like pause the rest and just watch that and just let it all run, because you know it's just a revolving door. It's too many. So that's the thing, is like sometimes it gets exhausting for a fan, you know, because we're not going to just sit there with an open checkbook and just like pour out money at everything. It's like you're going to pick yours, but it's just like if you blink, if you use the bathroom, it's over. You missed it, you know. It's like it's too many of them. But yeah, as a show, probably right in the middle, 5 out of 10 for me. I don't really think it was that good.
Yeah, 4 for me.
You saying 4?
Yeah.
It was just right in the middle for me. I didn't really I didn't hate it. I thought that some of the I just thought the hosts just didn't have chemistry. They put them together, they didn't have chemistry. But at least they didn't make them do a whole bunch of like skits and stuff like the next show that we could talk about, which was the Devolver Direct.
Ooh.
How you feel about Devolver Direct?
I didn't write anything down.
Okay.
I watched the whole thing and I was like, I don't want any of this. I didn't know what was going on half of the time. And again, I watched this one like right after the Guerrilla, so it was like I watched the full like 3 hours at like 1.75 speed. So then I went to this one, and like there was like it looked like a movie at some point, and like towards the end, I was like, I don't know what's happening, and none of the games that I saw interest me. So
everything was a skit. It was just like they were doing a bunch of on-stage skits. The intro was like this boring history tale of like the development of older games that's been long gone.
Oh.
And then it was like, you know, just skits after skits. There was like one game here that I wrote down that I just put, it's funny, but no, it's not a game that I wanted to play. It was called Baby Steps, where they just had like this drunk looking dude like walking around looking like he was walking funny. And it was like the only game that stood out to me, because the other stuff was just coming and I didn't care. But yeah, Baby Steps, and it looked funny, but it didn't look like a game that I would want to play. Probably watch a streamer play and they add their commentary to it and stuff. But yeah, they after that it was just more skits. I did write down there's more skits here than actual games in this show. And then at some point they were selling merch and telling you it was 50% off. It was just like t-shirts and stuff. So I thought it was just like not good. Just overall, I didn't think it was good.
I agree.
And so you didn't have anything to point out here.
There was nothing. Like I was like,
yeah,
I'm not interested in any of it. So.
I at least pointed out that they showed a game that stood out that I remembered. Like I still remember Baby Steps, but it was not a game that I wanted to play. I just thought it was funny. As far as this show, I don't know if it's harsh. I will say like maybe I'll be a little bit more harsh on it, but I don't know. Maybe for me it was a 2 out of 10. I can't give it nothing else.
I don't even want to score it because I literally didn't like anything right from it. So.
Yeah, we can move on to Day of the Devs. I think I said that right. The Developer Direct, basically. Day of the Devs. How you feel about that one?
It was okay. Only 2 games really stuck out to me from it, but I didn't think it was that bad of a show. It was just not a lot of things that I was like super interested in, but like I'm sure somebody is. It felt like it was the perfect length. It was like 40 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
And it just showed off, you know, some people making some cool like games. Like it's impressive. But only 2 of the games stuck out to me.
So one of the games that did stick out to me was a game that I featured on the channel before as well, which was called Hyper Lightbreaker. Big open world type game. It looked like they added a little bit more to this than what they were showing before. Like your character was basically doing like some Goku when he mastered his technique. What was it called again? Ultra something. Yeah, they were doing some of that. Like they were doing that. I mean, the game is still called Hyper Lightbreaker, but he was doing some of that in the gameplay. I thought that was pretty cool. That was new in comparison to the stuff that they shown before. That's literally it for this. Outside of Chia, another game that I mentioned before. It was just a little bit weird because Chia had already been out. You know, it was a part of the service as well, and I didn't expect this to be kind of like they almost had it as their main event in a way. And I'm like, it's out. Like some people have already finished it, I'm sure. But yeah, so I was kind of confused by that, but yeah, Hyper Light Breaker was already one of the bigger ones that I was into. So I don't know.
So for me, the two games were Beastie Ball, the first one.
Okay.
I don't know, it was just like Pokemon, but like instead of training them to fight, you're training them to play volleyball. It seemed kind of like goofy. Something I might try out, like if it's like super cheap. And then Hellskate. So that one was also kind of Tony Hawk Pro Skater, but you're fighting with it.
Okay.
So I think that was the two things. Like the frog one was you're just a frog doing skating stuff, and then this one you're specifically like you're hitting combos and then running into monsters and like fighting them and stuff while skating.
Okay. So as a show, how would you rate this one?
This one was about average for me, like so a 5 or a 6.
Yeah, I will go right in the middle for this as well. It's a 5 again. It wasn't really it didn't do too much for me at all. It was just kind of just like at some point it was just playing. Like I said before, for everybody, I was watching a lot of these shows at the same time. And so that was one, like the Jeff Keighley show was just showing stuff, like a lot of stuff that I was paying attention to. So I was a lot more focused on that screen. So the Devolver Direct was actually still very short. So I had Jeff Keighley on my left screen. My middle screen was the Guerrilla Collective. And then the Devolver Direct and then the Developer Direct was like in 2 tabs on the third screen. And so when one was done, the other one just kind of played. And I was sitting there, you know, I had my notes out and then I had some food and was kind of going through all screens. It wasn't that hard because when somebody's showing trash, you just watch the other screen. It wasn't that hard to do. No disrespect to some of them, but yeah. That's kind of how I did this. Now, there's a couple more shows. I'm going to be very brief on that because it wasn't really much. But real quick, I just want to also mention, I guess, the Friday the 13th game featuring Jason Voorhees. The servers are going to go down if they're not already down. I forgot the dates on it. But, yeah, Dead by Daylight, quote-unquote, 1, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's going to beat the Texas Chainsaw Massacre one next when that comes out. If it's not already out, I forgot. But I think there was more to the story, though, because it's still developing, but I think it also has some sort of copyright issues going on with it.
Oh.
So I don't know what was happening, but I'm pretty sure it's got something to do with music that's, like, annoying. Because it's like how, like, I don't know, but it does involve, like, I think it involves a Dead by Daylight or something too. It's weird. It's a developing story, but basically Jason lost. Maybe is he in Dead by Daylight? Maybe he can go in there at this point. Like just put him in there because you got everybody else in there. It was I was looking at that list. I'm like, it was pretty much everybody. Everybody is there. So yeah, but that game, I didn't ever actually play it. It's been like super on sale every time I've seen it. It'll be in stores, even physical. Yeah, it'll be in stores. Like I think it was a gimmick, but I remember seeing a couple times where it was in stores for $13.
So I played it.
Yeah.
When it was first out, I had played it. It was good. It was just kind of doing the same thing over and over, but it was good. The hiding was a lot more fun. Like it was. The game, like some of the, because it could focus on the one guy, Jason, and everything, like him catching you had a lot more to me animations than Dead by Daylight. I think Dead by Daylight was more polished, but it was also easier to kind of troll in Friday the 13th. Like I was hiding in this one cabin, and somebody was like running away from Jason and just crashed through the window in the cabin I'm in, and then ran out, and Jason found me instead. Because he thought like the dude hid under the bed where I was hiding. And also like you can find like keys to a car and everybody that's by the car can escape, but you can just leave everybody if you want. Like you just get all the components or you find the keys, let everyone find, because you have to find like a bunch of stuff in order to escape. Let everybody find all the different components, and then when they run out looking for the keys, you just run out with the keys, get in the car, and drive off. So
I remember Jason. I remember that game being very like gruesome and graphic, but not gruesome and graphic enough in a way, if that makes sense. Because I remember seeing footage where it was a girl on the ground and she straight just took a axe chop directly to the stomach.
Yep.
But it wasn't really animated right. Like it was kind of like you would have thought that would have been way more gruesome to see, but they didn't really like put that much detail into it. She just sort of just took the chop and that was kind of it. But yeah. I guess we could probably move on. Before I talk about some of the other shows, I'm gonna talk about a couple of your topics, and I just wanted to mention real quick a very funny one that might be important. It might be kind of important, but Whoopi Goldberg, shout out to Whoopi Goldberg, voicing her opinion apparently about Diablo 4, which we could be brief on it, but I think this is important because she was just basically upset because she has a Mac and she wants to play on Mac, I guess. And I guess Diablo 4 currently is not on Mac. Maybe they might make a Mac version later. But I had no idea that she was a Diablo 4 player. I had no idea that she played games, period. When I think of Whoopi Goldberg, I do not think of video gaming at all. I think of The View. I think of Sister Act. I think of all that stuff. But I do think it was kind of funny to hear the story, but I think it's important that if there are celebrities out there that game on a high level, Henry Cavill is probably the biggest one that I knew. But if there's a whole bunch of other ones that are like, you got these platforms like The View or anywhere else or something, like definitely voice your opinion when the other stuff happens in gaming. Like what we were just talking about with the Spider-Man collection, or just the deluxe version of Spider-Man, or any microtransactions. You mentioned off before we started about Madden and their NFTs and stuff. Like if you, the celebrity, is that much of a gamer, you maybe have like an alt account or something, and you're watching the little guys out there, you got a lot of power where you can say something, and you might get a sponsorship. Somebody might sponsor you to show up at a award show or something real quick. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe you can do like a Kevin Hart role in like a Borderland movie kind of thing later, just because you said something, more importantly, do not be a politician that just wants to be in that stereotype that everybody hates people who plays Grand Theft Auto or something. Like you are in an important role too. If you are a gamer, like say something. Don't just be the politician who's like airheaded and don't know no better, So yeah, I just wanted to say that. I thought that was probably important. You got anything on this input on this Whoopi Goldberg or whatever?
No, I didn't know that many like people gamed on Mac. But yeah, it was just surprising to hear it was like Whoopi. It was Diablo.
Yeah, like
4.
what Whoopi Goldberg? Like what?
Yeah. But hey, that's awesome. I still like it. I like those surprises.
Yeah, we can move on.
Everybody.
So let's talk about Persona 3. Or I guess well, tell me about what Atlus just did. Yeah.
Somebody at Atlus, I think, messed up and got fired. So
they really messed up.
Like week, all of a sudden, just on their Instagram page, a whole trailer for a Persona 3 remaster just dropped like on there. I don't know if it's still up, but people were already recording footage and posting it elsewhere. So I think they took it down. But like they remastered Persona 3, which I think is weird because they just re-released Persona 3 Portable that people could buy, and now they've remastered it from the ground up, where it has more like a Persona 5 look instead of like an old school look. So it's a lot better graphics and things like that. Something that someone did point out, because Atlus also dropped that they're doing Persona 5 Tactical, or Persona 5 Tactica, I think it's called, but it's going to be like a more grid-based tactical game for Persona 5, where they have the little, I think it's called chibi look, where they're like the little chubby anime characters.
Yeah.
So both of those are releasing. So I guess they're still working on Persona 6 as well. But something that somebody else pointed out, the Persona 5 Tactica game is based on continuing the story from Persona 5 and Persona 5 Strikers, but not Persona 5 Royal. So the characters from Royal are not there, just like they're not in Strikers. And Persona 3 Remaster, apparently there was the Persona 3 portable version, the P3P, that has the extra people and extra content, but they're not in the remaster one. Again, so it would be nice if like the remaster people, because you remastered it for a reason. So if you added all that content, let that be canon. Like put that in there as well. But it's getting remastered. Someone's probably in trouble for dropping it.
Yeah. But, shout out to everybody who's going to be looking forward to this. I got a question for you because you played 5 all the way through. Royal. You finished 5. And you were going to play it backwards. You're going to play 5, and then you're going to play 4 Golden, and then 3. Yep. So, are you still going to do that, or are you going to skip the original 3?
Nope. I'm gonna do 4 Golden, and then I didn't buy for P3P the Persona 3 portable. I'm going to get this one instead.
So you are going to skip the original?
Oh yeah, so I'm going to skip the original. Okay. Yeah, and get the remaster.
But you're still going to go in that same order?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I might go with that same kind of thing. I think because I didn't play portable. I had every intention to, though. I was like, I would probably play that one. But I think, I will go for the remaster version when that comes out.
Yeah.
And then, 6 when that comes out.
Yep.
Other than that, I want to mention the other 2 shows that I watched. I don't think you saw them, but I can keep it real brief because it's really is not much that was there that was for me. To keep it politically correct, I'll just say the show technically wasn't for me to begin with. So it was the Accessibility Summer Showcase and then the Tribeca Game Spotlight. Tribeca Game Spotlight was not on the list that they put out earlier, which had all the shows. So this is almost like a delisted show. But I happened to catch it because it was on another list of a thing that I follow that's like a little bit more smaller. But it was still somewhat in the lines of what the Accessibility Summer Showcase was, where they were doing some of the same kind of content, but both shows kind of just came and went. It wasn't really anything that I saw that I liked. But I just wanted to say, just to keep it real brief, I just felt like the Accessibility Summer Showcase was just simply not representative of the customer or the community as well as it probably should have been. Anybody who watches it was about 43 minutes. You'll know what I'm talking about. The first half versus the second half, you already know what I'm talking about if you watch it. However, as far as just for gaming wise, it wasn't that much there that I could pull from there. The other show, they did show some games here and there. It wasn't much that I would have wanted to play, but they did at least have it where the games had accessibility features for the people who would have needed them. I don't know why I really came into the show thinking I was going to see the PlayStation controller. You saw that new controller that they had. Yeah. They didn't have any of that. It was none of that. It was just like some of the software games, but it just wasn't really games that I would have wanted to play, but it's just not really for me. As far as the show though, I didn't think it was that good. That's more on the lines of the 2 or 3 out of 10. I think I would still give it a little bit higher than the other one. Like I would say 3 out of 10, where I gave the other show a 2 out of 10, because it at least wasn't just full blown skits and just people on stage doing skits. It wasn't that, but it just wasn't as accurately. It was almost like a catfish show. I'll just put it that way. It was almost catfished in a way. You're gonna get catfished a little bit. Tribeca, they showed some games, but it was like right in the middle for me. I didn't think it was really anything there for me either. But I would say that's like a 5 out of 10, right in the middle. It's like as a show it was okay, but no, I didn't pull anything from it, unfortunately. I guess we could do your topic right before I say the outro. You're saying movies are getting patches now. What do you mean by that?
So I saw Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse this week.
All right.
Really good movie. However, when I got there and I was listening and the movie started, I was like, it feels a little quiet. Like it didn't feel like loud enough for the movie theater, but like it wasn't a lot of people there, so it was fine. And like eventually I adjusted and the movie was good. Well, it turns out there was some volume issues. So Sony realized this and sent out new copies to the movies that like increased the volume. And like fixed the audio issues. So I made a joke about it. I was like, so now movies are getting patches. Like they're not releasing correct at the theater. Now they have to send new versions of it. And I've never heard of that happening before.
So technically it's always been doing that. It's just we don't really think about it that way, because you could argue when they started doing the conversions of like everything going from VHS to DVD, they was patching everything because they were calling them all remastered. But then there was like this whole thing on the Disney side. I could pick on Disney for this, where I guess like if you, it's all over YouTube if it hasn't been scraped out, but there was a whole bunch of SEX symbols all over their movies and stuff from the past, and all of that was removed out and stuff. And then
what? There's a difference between removing from like you know, in the movies release and then when they re-release it on film, because even like Star Wars got some updates where the older films you could see
I was gonna mention like, Star Wars next, but yeah,
during the what's the AT-ATs, the walkers, you could see someone's wrist like moving it from like the table. But this is the first time I've ever heard like the movie released in theaters and in a week they had to release a different, like they had to update it and send it back out to theaters. That's where I was just like, even these need a day one patch now. Because the movie messed up.
But you know what's funny? Technically, movies have multiple endings, right? Because some of them have like alternate endings or like the developer's cut. Technically, because video games took director's cuts, the naming sake from movies. Technically, they were all doing that, and then it came with all these documentaries and stuff with it. Deleted scenes. What do we call a deleted scene? Like, it's not really DLC, but I don't know. It's a weird world. It's a real world. But I guess we could start wrapping it up. I do wanted to mention, so when this comes out, the next big hot show will be the Xbox and they're calling it the Xbox and Starfield show. So apparently it's still supposed to be a full Xbox show, which is just like, here's a whole bunch of games, and then a Starfield Direct. So that's going to come out. I will be watching that same day, later on that night. But you will hear us talk about it next week. The next thing also on that same day, I believe the PC gaming show is going to also come out. That's going to be next week. Technically, as of this recording, a couple shows did come out this morning. One of them is called the Wholesome Direct, and the other one is called the Future Games Show. Those shows we'll talk about next week. I believe the Future Games Show is also having a play date type of thing in the middle of it, and I'm gonna talk about that also. After the Xbox show and the PC game show, I believe going into Monday and Tuesday, they have the Ubisoft Direct and then the Capcom show. And then the very last one is the Black Voices in Gaming. And I was talking to my co-host offline. I was like, let's talk about our previews for each one. And it's like, what do you want from that one? And it's like, maybe we don't have to do that because it's probably going to be a whole bunch of stuff. For Xbox, obviously, it's like capitalize. If everybody's saying they didn't like the PlayStation show, Xbox, please capitalize and fix the trees in Starfield. That was the only thing for me for Starfield. And then polish Starfield. I'm pretty sure it is a little bit more polished. Just more gaming, you know. And then just to reiterate, there was still going to be the show that's going to happen June 29th. What was that called again? It's on my other page. Annapurna Interactive Showcase, which might feature Stray 2 or Stray DLC and then some other stuff that I saw. That's going to be June 29th. I still am in the camp of they needed to push some of these around. It shouldn't be 2-3 of them. Even if you was going to have them all bunched in, at least one per day. At one point, it was 3 in one day. The Jeff Keighley and the other ones was like 3 in one day. At least one per day. Is that a good compromise? Am I overdoing it when I say that? Like at least one per day?
One per day is much better.
I would have liked it was like once every 3 days at the.
You know what? I wouldn't mind like one main show per day, and then if they throw in those like I don't think like for example Black Voices in gaming, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not going to be showing off games.
They're gonna show the Black Voices.
Like, they're going to be talking, right? Well, they're going to be talking about. They're not like it's like here's a new trailer, let's drop it. Those can be scattered. I don't need those to have separate days. I feel like it should be like here's like a group of trailers. Here's the extra talking points. Here's a group of trailer. Here's the extra talking points. That's what I would like to see.
I kind of just feel like they still would have got their point across if they did these like once a week and it was like the summer of gaming. You know what I mean? I feel like they still would have got their point across. But I don't know. They didn't do it that way. It was done that way because technically if you were in person, this is technically what E3 was. It's so funny because we had this news that E3 is over, but it's not. like this is the same as what was last year, the year before. And for everybody else who couldn't actually be there in person, you would have looked at it like this anyway. So you here is your E3, everybody. You did not lose E3. It's still here. But I guess it's really crunched up. It's funny because if you did go to E3, you would have missed more than half of this. Because you can't be at two places at one time. Literally, like unless you run from one place to the next or something, or you got like you send one person in the other place and like you in one place and then you like stream or something from y'all cell phones, and so you look up at the real show and you look down at somebody else's show. I don't know. It just it sounds chaotic, right? It sounds so chaotic. But we're gonna try to cover the second half of all the shows. I know a lot of people are probably gonna be itching to look at the Xbox show to Sunday night. This is gonna come out that morning, so we weren't gonna be able to cover it, unfortunately. But we will get more information on that the next week. I do think more than likely I will have a solo vid on that, probably on like towards the middle of the week or something. But happy gaming, happy time in gaming. I'm excited to see what else is coming. I don't want to see Capcom just make it the like Resident Evil, here's more of like everything's already out show. Because I think the last Capcom show was like, here's Resident Evil and then here's Monster Hunter. But literally everything was already out. And they didn't really do nothing. I'm like, okay, they created a show of all their stuff that was already out. Like the only update was that they had Resident Evil Village in VR 2. But we can end it. You know what's funny? I'm gonna go there. Nintendo is nowhere to be found on this list, and everybody else came out with a show. So if you stop harassing channels over other content and stuff, you could have probably had some time to come out with your show, Nintendo. I'm just saying. Ooh. Everybody else was there except for you. Even Playdate is in one of these shows that technically already happened. So So that's all I got. Anything you want to say? Last words? Any last words?
Let us know in the chats what game you were looking forward to. Which game got your attention from the show?
Yeah, because even through all these shows, I still wrote down a lot. Like, let's say theoretically, if I was to buy all of this day one, I would be out of like Asus Alley money, basically. So I wrote down a whole lot. But yeah, happy time in gaming, and it's a beautiful summer. Please enjoy it. I will see y'all next week. You're gonna see some more content from me outside of the podcast going forward. And yeah, peace. Enjoy the summer.